Paint college basketball, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on for the next couple of months. We'll be here each and every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, live show in the Paint, and we'll be doing so through March Madness, or at least into the Final Four and all that kind of good stuff. And good to be back, guys. Happy New Year. We haven't been together for a few weeks, but back at it. And, man, I'm going to tell you what. I just got to say this real quick. I don't know about you guys. I love college basketball. We all know we do. But I sit there and I'm like, oh, man, it's Friday. Here a 12-hour day. But so far, knock on wood, Saturdays have been pretty good. I don't know about you guys, but it gets a little crazy. And doing this show actually helps me prep for the weekend.
I'm right. I'll jump in right now. I'm right there with you, Scott. Doing this show, prepping for the weekend, gives you a whole big grasp of every single game that's coming in depth. And it really starts to give you a key-to-key eye where you can really start circling up matches that are coming up in the forthcoming 4 or 5 days upcoming. So I totally agree with you on that one, brother, 100%. I love prepping for this show because it really does give a big grasp of where the premium selections are going to be going in weeks forward.
I look at it a little bit differently because I still do it like I did when I was doing numbers over for MGM. I make my own numbers every day for all the sports. So Friday, when it was just Ivy League playing in college basketball, I was able to Friday morning, Friday afternoon, after we released all my stuff for docs and did my videos, I was able to tackle Saturday's games. Now Big Ten's playing on Friday night. We have other games. What are you guys doing to me? Can I make his numbers before the Saturday numbers come out? Because that's how I look at what I'm going to play. If my numbers are 2, 3, 4 points off, then no range open, and then I circle that game, and then I come back. So there's 9 times out of 10, like last Saturday's games, I only had 4 games circled that I was going to look at because my numbers were really close, or there were some with the California. I threw out all the LA stuff just because of what's going on in California right now. I didn't want to deal with any of that. But it's just funny how some Saturdays I have 20 plays, and then there's some Saturdays I have 4. And that's the Saturday I had 4 plays.
You know, it's funny because I think you guys know him. I've known, he's been a friend of mine for over 20 years, Big Al McMorty. And it's funny you mentioned the Ivies and how things have changed on Friday nights, Raphael, because we were just talking about this last week, way back in the days of yore. I had a customer one time, or a client, who called me up and he goes, "Can I get that brain chain package?" I went, "You mean Ivy League on Friday nights?" Yeah. Can I get your brain chain package? I love playing the Ivies. And so that's what we called it from that moment forward, giving him all the credit in the world, the brain chain package. And listen, Griffin, I don't know when you started betting if it was that way, but for many, many years, it was like 7 or 8 Ivy League games. They played the exact, same pairing the very next night. And man, it was just a little bit easier than the way it is now when you got all these games going on. Easier to handicap, not always easier to win. So don't get me confused here when it comes to that. But anyway, let's jump into it. I wanted to let everybody know that if they're not yet a member at DocSports.com and just want to give it a trial run, it's a real cool way to do it. You click on that link below the video. You can get yourself set up for a free $60, and then you can use those $60 on any of our daily packages over at DocSports.com. Before we jump into a couple of games, guys, I thought it'd be cool this time of year, and I always kind of like to look at this stuff this time of season, if we kind of gave the folks maybe a thought on not necessarily like a 100-to-1 shot, something crazy like that to win the college basketball championship, but since the odds have been adjusted, maybe a team in that 20-to-1, 15-to-1, 30-to-1 range, that people can, have a little excitement, have a little fun, add to the fun with their hard-earned bucks. And I'm going to give a couple in a minute, but Raphael, got a couple of games, or at least one team for us, I should say, not games, that you're looking at as, decent-sized odds that maybe has a chance to go all the way.
I'm not bunting for a 20-to-1 or something. I'm swinging for the fences. I want some big cash. I get Oregon plus 7,000. If they can keep the tempo up to their pace and that don't get slowed down like they do now that some of these Big Ten teams are slowing them down, if they can keep their pace tempo up, they could be a scary out in a tournament. So I'm looking for Oregon. Just get me to the Sweet 16 and I can hedge on my plus 7,000. And then, you know me, Scott, I love the Mountain West. Give me the Utah State Aggies. What's the price? 250,000 to 1. Yes, I said it. Utah State Aggies. Yes, we all saw Boise State. I think we can say this word, shit the bed in college football. But I think Utah State, with the way they play defense, we saw them play outstanding team defense at St. Mary's and beat St. Mary's in their backyard. This could be another tough out. Give me the 250,000 to 1.
They beat me that night. I had St. Mary's. I really thought that was a good spot.
I thought you did. I didn't want to say that. I thought you did.
I did have them. I mean, to be candid, I had St. Mary's that night, and I thought this is a really tough spot. The thing is to be stubborn, I would do it again in that spot. But, Utah State is actually better than I thought they were. I thought they were okay, but they're better than I thought they were. Griffin, how about you, man?
Yeah, Scott, I got to say, man, I absolutely loved this one rolling in, the long shot hammer. And my play, honestly, shoot me if I'm wrong, I love Memphis here, man. Memphis is always a pesky team, and they've got some solidified victories this season. They've beaten Missouri, they've beaten UConn, they've beaten Michigan State, and they've beaten Ole Miss. They've got 3 losses this year to Auburn, Mississippi State, and they had a bad loss to Arkansas State. But this is always a pesky team. They have a very good head coach with Penny Hardaway, and he knows how to win the big game. Always down the line through the stretch with this Memphis team, they're always in the conversation when we're going into the NCAA tournament. And under Hardaway, he's made it there twice. Memphis, they're a very talented team, and they gave Auburn a run for their money back when they played in Hawaii a few weeks ago. The odds right now on Memphis right now are currently plus 8,000. Give me $100 on Memphis for an $8,000 payout. I'll take that all day. So that's where I'm at with this long shot, Scott.
That's great stuff, you guys, because I really thought I've got a couple of 50 to 1 shots, and I thought, wow, I'm going to be way out there with these 50 to 1 shots. And you guys are like making me look like I'm giving out a 2 to 1 favorite or something here. But listen, Iowa State at 13 to 1 is not what I was going to talk about, but we will talk about their midweek game in a moment. They're a legit contender, but I did want to throw a couple of, long shots, so to speak, out there. And I've got 2, and they're both 50 to 1. One is Michigan State, power rated 14th in Ken Palm's ratings. Michigan State's 50 to 1. And again, power rated 14th. Illinois' power rated 13th. They're 33 to 1. That's a little bit of value on Sparty when you're basically said you're the same as the team that's right in front of you, 13th, and you're getting 50 to 1 instead of 33 to 1. So I like Michigan State, 24th and 11th offensive and defensive efficiency, adjusted efficiency. And they don't shoot 3 wells. That's their caveat. They don't shoot 3 wells, but guys, they never shoot threes. So it really doesn't matter if they go, 2 for 7 in a game. So it's not so much of an Achilles heel. They faced a top 40 strength of schedule. They haven't lost since November. My other 50 to 1 shot, boy, I'm going to go with the old man in Queens. You know who that is, Ricky Pitino. I like Rick Pitino's St. John's squad, man. 7th in adjusted efficiency on defense. And like Michigan State, their weakness is the 3-point shot. But like Michigan State, they don't take threes. So it's not a weakness. They've lost 3 games, by 1 in overtime to Baylor. They lost on a neutral site to Georgia by 3. They lost in Omaha to Creighton by 1. They've got the second best odds right now to win the Big East. Obviously, when you win the Big East, even if it's not deserved this year, you're going to get a decent seeding. So I like St. John's, even a little bit more, believe it or not, than Michigan State. But listen, I am so glad because I thought, boy, I don't want to sit here and tell folks, hey, tune in, watch some semi-long shots, and we all went with like 8 to 1, so we were all
you
thinking the same thing.
You have to look at it now these days, Scott. Sorry to cut you off. Now that these I don't agree with what the sportsbook is doing, but now you have this cash out button. Give me a break. But if you have a ticket like a nice ticket, like you said, Michigan State, the Memphis, or the Utah State, and now you're in the grade 8 and all that, and you did put $100, I can guarantee you, if you decide to weenie up and hit the cash out button, you're going to get your money back and a lot more. So you kind of have to look at it that way. I mean, of course, I'm a big hedger, but I wouldn't hedge until they at least get to the Final Four. I'm not going to cash out. I'm just going to keep my ticket and hedge on the other side. But most people now, they weenie up and hit that cash out button.
Weenie up. I love it. The weenie up button. That's what we're going to call it from now on.
Well, I like that. The weenie
up button. Last year was funny. I remember the date. I was doing shows at the Circa, and it was September 3rd of last year of 2023. And I walked up to the window. Purdue had been knocked out in the previous first round by a 16 seed. And I walked up to the window like I did when Virginia got knocked out by a 16 seed and then won the championship the next year. And I got 17 to 1 on Purdue with Zach Edey still in the mix. And I put 2 dimes on it. But Raphael, Griffin, I did not hedge. I decided to go for the gusto. I saw that button. I kept thinking weenie. And of course, I wish I was a little bit of a weenie after the game was over because, could have made it 15K. The wife would have enjoyed that.
Always hedge.
Had to be a hero, always get burned when you got to be a hero. All right, guys, let's talk about a few games. Let's start with our midweek marquee matchup. We talked about Iowa State very briefly there. Interesting game in the Big 12 on Wednesday night because Kansas travels to Ames to take on the Cyclones. Both of these teams have Final Four talent on paper. The Cyclones look to be the real deal. They opened a 6.5-point home favorite in a couple of smaller books, Griffin. I've seen as low as 5.5. We're cutting this video at 6 o'clock Eastern time Tuesday night. I have seen a couple of 5.5s pop up. Griffin, I'm just going to say this, man. They're both fierce on the defensive end. Kansas been a little disappointing, but they look like they might be starting to come around. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Scott, I went to Iowa State, actually. I was a former Cyclone myself, and I've got to say, when you are going to Hilton Coliseum, it is absolutely no joke. It's like going to Durham, North Carolina, and playing at Duke. These fans are absolutely crazy. And the thing about Iowa State, they find ways to win, man. They've won 11 games in a row. They're a perfect undefeated 10-0 at home. And right now, Kansas, they're by no means the same Kansas team that we're used to watching. Their biggest downfall this season, I have to say, Scott, is playing on the road. They've got losses against Creighton and Missouri, and they're not fast on the break. They're not well formatted offensively as a team, and they live off Dickinson and Mayo to clean up all their points. If Kansas wants to win this game, Scott, guys like Harris and Adams have to be key roles, and they have to isolate from the field. Second chances in the paint are going to be critical for Kansas in this matchup. Meanwhile, Iowa State, they're coming off a massive road win over Texas Tech in their most recent meeting, which gives a huge boost of mentality entering that game. Now they're back at home. They're unbeaten. They're playing basketball beyond beliefs, and they're playing a team that's struggling on the road right now. So I got to say, Scott, I like Iowa State here in this spot. That's my play here.
Raphael, Hunter Dickinson, listen, he's a very good college basketball player. He looks like a 7-3 guy or something like that in the NBA, and he's got to not disappear. He had a couple of games earlier this season, including against Creighton. I think he put up like 4 or 5 shots against Creighton, and 2 of them were 3-point shots. He's got to be more demanding in the paint, and he's got to take it to the rim. This team's still not getting to the free throw line.
Well, if he doesn't get the ball early, his facial expressions and his demeanor for the whole game is out the window. But whoever wins the boards wins this game. And I know in the recent past, Kansas owns this series. I think they've covered 7 of their last 10. But this is an Ames. And this is not the Ames team we're used to. This is Iowa State, who plays really good at home. They want to keep the tempo fast. But if they can shorten up Kansas and maybe get some in foul trouble and win the board game, they win this. They've won 4 straight and covered 8 out of their last 10. This is no joke to come into Ames. Maybe 5 years ago, KU can come in and rock Hawk, Jayhawk in Ames, but not no more. This is going to be a tough game. I think the betting public will probably push this down to 5.5. I know DraftKings has it now at 5.5. BetMGM has it at 6. But anytime you see a 5.5, just face it, we all know Rock Hawk, Jayhawk money is going to come in, and people are like, who the heck is Iowa State? I don't even know where they play at. People don't even know what their nickname probably is, and I think that's why Kansas money will come in. I would see more probably 5.5 and 6 than the movie going up. So I would say probably wait if you're betting. I'm hoping the bettors bet KU, so when the release time, maybe I can sprinkle something on release time.
Heck, the general public doesn't even know the name of their head coach. I like to call him TJO, but Otzelberg. I'm really glad. I didn't know you were an Iowa State alum. I grew up in Omaha. And everybody either went to Lincoln, to Creighton, or to Iowa State. And so I've been to Ames, Iowa a few times back in the day, and we're talking a long time ago. But Hilton Coliseum has been around forever. I remember Johnny Orr dominating as the head coach at Iowa State in the Hilton Coliseum. So yeah, it's cool, man. I didn't know you were an alum. Yeah. And you know what I like?
I thought he just graduated high school. I didn't even know.
He actually did, but he's a brilliant dude, and so he was like, in college at the age of 16. So, but what I like about TJO, he's always been a slow tempo type of coach, first team to 55 or whatever. This year he's got the talent. They've gone from like 200, 220th in college basketball in adjusted tempo to like top 20, top 30. And I love that a coach can change. I hated the day that he left UNLV. They should have ponied up some money. He was here for a short time, and now we've been stuck with Kevin Kruger. ever since, and that's not going too well. Behind the counter, let's go behind the counter. We got the bookmaker on the show each and every week, and I love to talk about these games that are coming up the following week and that are very interesting games, mean a lot to what's going on in college basketball during the course of the season. We got Raphael to set them up, and the rest of us will knock them down. I wanted to start with the SEC battle between Alabama and Kentucky at Kentucky, Raphael. Could Alabama be a very short road fave, or do you tempt the bettors with an underdog price?
I mean, this one's weird because remember a couple of weeks ago when Florida went to Big Blue Nation, and I still don't understand why they made that game so early. I was still watching English Premier League soccer, and I was still drinking coffee, and this game tipped off. But that one was kind of tricky. Florida money came in late, and that's very rare to see a road team come into Big Blue Nation and steal the betting money early. Could we see it? And this type of one, I want to see Kentucky with probably a small favorite, maybe 1 or 2. But when the odds makers come out, I wouldn't be shocked just on that trend that we saw when Florida played Kentucky, that they maybe switch up and maybe close to a pick 'em, or maybe Bama a 1-point favorite. Here's another one. If Kentucky slows Bama, they need to play half court offense, because if they let Bama run wild, there's going to be a long night in Kentucky. You better go to the racetrack and watch the ponies run around in circles than watch your Big Blue Nation play. The total is going to be very interesting. 166. I kind of made it high because let's face it, Florida, I think, is still scoring points against Kentucky in that game because Florida had no problem scoring. They hit the century mark at Big Blue Nation. I had to make it high just because I think the betting public would see, okay, they scored 100 points over there. We can probably see it. So it would probably come around 166, 167, and I would still probably look at that.
Yeah, I tell you, Griffin, this is going to be, as Raphael just pointed out, a high-scoring game. I mean, both teams want to get up and down the floor. Alabama, third in two-point accuracy, weak outside the arc. Kentucky's one issue, two-point defense. They're outside the top 200 in defensive percentage allowed inside the three-point line. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Scott, I'm right on the same page with Raphael on this. This is going to be a totals play for me. This is a really interesting matchup. I mean, you've got Bama. They've throttled 8 wins in a row. And in their last 3 games, it has not been easy for them. They dealt with Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas A&M. The strength of schedule couldn't be tougher for Bama. And they come into this game, they are currently leading the nation in offensive points per game. So now the reason that I look at this as a total play, Scott, Kentucky, they're not the same Kentucky team that we're used to watching. Their defense has been subpar all season long. We're fully aware Bama, on the other hand, they will dominate you if you are not dialed in defensively. The thing is, why I look at this game as a totals play is I am not going to go up against a team who is a perfect 10-0 at home. So that immediately brings that confluence stacker into my mind, and that's a liability wagering on a team who's perfect at home all season long, wagering against them. So Bama, in my eyes, they're faster on the break. They have a better offense, and I believe Nate Oates is the better coach than Mark Pope. We have a total sitting at, with Raphael's prediction, at 166. So I think psychologically this is going to be a trap game. We know we have 2 teams that are offensively explosive. So the public is going to be all over that total over. I'm going to flip that total on them, and I'm going to be looking at an under in this play, Scott.
Well, good stuff. And you know what? When Griffin was talking, he made me think of something here, Raphael. And, you know, I've worked with a lot of bookmakers over the years on shows, and I've never worked behind the counter. I've always worked in front of it, trying to beat those guys behind the counter. But Griffin just said something. How much do you bake into the number when we all can assume? And Griffin made the point that this is going to be a game where the average bettor is, and I'm not talking about pro bettors, but I'm talking about the general public, is going to walk to the window thinking they're in for a 98, 94 type of game, and that total is going to be, you know, sail over the total, you know. And how much do you bake into the number, or does it even get baked into the number? Because, you know, the sharp action is going to be deeper, and you're going to have to worry about that when the sharps, Griffin being one, is sitting there going, man, you know, this total is going to get bet up. I'm going to wait till it hits $1.70, and I'm going under.
Drill it. That's what I'm right on the same page with you there, Scott. It's all a psychological trap in my eyes with this one. Public's attention is going to be all over that, looking at these 2 offense. I mean, as soon as you could open the score app, you look at both of their offenses and you see they bang from the perimeter. They bang from the field. They bang in offensive points per game. It's just obvious. It's too obvious. And that's where that brings me, gentlemen, to an underplay.
Raphael, your thoughts on that?
But keep an eye out. We all know what Saturday is. It's not college basketball Saturday. It's NFL divisional round. So most likely they're not going to be big limits on this. Like we're
Like
going to
that.
get like next Saturday or the Saturday after the Super Bowl. So yes, you can probably get it, but the numbers will move a lot quicker now because they'll move it. Let's say on a $550 or $1,000 total bet than they will maybe in 2 weeks from now when there's no football. So keep an eye out for that. If you're Griffin when he says wait till maybe an hour before tip off. Let the betting public continue to see these over trends that like Griffin and Scott, what you said, and let them move your number and let them bet it. Granted, we don't have to release it because when we have to redo our release times, that's sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 points difference. That's why I always tell people, yes, I release plays at whatever certain time. But if you have questions, we're all on social media. We're all let me know. If I played a game at 167 and now an hour before game, now it's 170, would I play it to still? No, it's moved 3 points. For myself, I'm looking the middle because now I got a 3-point difference. So you always want to wait to see how the best number, and you can usually tell what the books are going to move it to next, not surprisingly.
Yeah, like I said, like I like to do my stuff late at night. I'm a night owl anyway, so it fits with my circadian rhythm. But all of us, man, that have been doing this for a while, including, all three of us, I sit there and I know I'm going to be ahead of the line move 85% of the time. Doesn't mean you're going to win anywhere near 85% of the time. But the bottom line is you're going to be ahead of the number when you do this. This is our life. This isn't like we go to work 8 hours a day and then we come home and hope to spend 2 or 3. I mean, this is why we're doing these shows and hopefully help everybody become a better, if you will. So I thought that was great analysis by both of you guys from both behind the counter and in front of it. One more game, Raphael, get your line on this, and then we'll move on to a little under the radar talk. Purdue and Oregon in Eugene, Big Ten battle. Again, I think we're going to have a game that's really close to pick 'em. What would you make this?
Yeah, I think Oregon will probably end up around 1-2 point favorite. I'm probably going to hammer because I have a ticket at 71 or 7,001 for Oregon to win it all. I just announced it earlier in the show. So of course I'm going to be rooting for the Ducks. Quack, quack for me, baby. But I think the betting public will probably bet Oregon. So I would say this is one of those ones, wait for the opening number on Friday and see what the number is. If it's low, because the money's going to come in on the Ducks, especially how Purdue has played, especially on the road. They get in a lot of foul trouble on the road. And Oregon's one of those ones that can shoot free throws. They would shoot better free throws on the line at home than they do on the road. That could be very key for this number, especially in the second half. So this is one of those ones I'll probably open up at 2 and I'm like, all right, I already know one of my plays for Saturday. And I wake up on Saturday morning, it's like 4 or 5. Son of a. So this is one of those ones where I would say keep an eye out for this one early. They're going to open up Oregon early, probably the small favorite 1 or 2, but keep an eye out for a quick line movement overnight. I have a total at 145. I think Purdue's defense will probably want to slow them down, unless if Oregon spreads the floor out, then this thing's an ugly game. Oregon wins by a blowout. But if you're Purdue, you need to slow down the Ducks.
Griffin?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree anymore with you, Raphael. As soon as Purdue got into playing in the SEC matchups plus conference play, they really started getting torched. I mean, Penn State doubled them up on double digits. Texas A&M beat them outright at home, and Auburn throttled through them like it was nothing. When we get towards the end of the season, I think we're going to see Purdue get exposed publicly. The problem for Purdue all season long, it's been rebounds, and that's because they've been without Zach Edey. That's their guy. It's Edey and Braden Smith. Anywhere, at all times, pick and roll. These are your two guys. Their chemistry was so driven, the synchronization. They don't have that anymore. So this game is going to come down to who's the better shooting team. Neither of these teams are excelling on rebounds all season long. So if I'm Dana Altman, I'm telling my boys, we're playing man-to-man all game long. Let's force them to beat us on shots. Oregon has home court advantage here. Nice 3-game winning streak. And if I'm Altman, I'm telling them, make us beat us straight up. And if they are beating us straight up, immediately shift to that 2-3 zone defense and make them beat us from the deep ball, make them beat us from the 3-pointer. But with Oregon being home at this matchup, it's a really good spot play after playing back-to-back road games. And then they have nearly a week to prepare for this matchup. I'm on Oregon here, gentlemen.
Raphael, you got a question there. Do you see it?
Yeah, I saw that, Stefan. I would probably wait. I've been looking at this Duke-Miami total. There's a 145 out there. I know there's probably going to be a defensive battle, but if this number keeps on dropping and Cooper Flagg has another monster game, this can be one of those creepy games that go over. This is one of those ones. If it goes down to 144, maybe I'll take a bite at the over, or with the live bet number and see if it maybe starts off slow, because Duke's been especially a high scoring game in the second half. So I'm looking for that one right now. If the number keeps on total, there's 2 145s. One of them just moved while we're on the air.
Griffin, we were both on the Clippers, it looks like, last night, and I went into that game thinking, this feels a little bit too obvious for me, and I decided not to worry about it, played them anyway, and they started out poorly, and then they had that big, second half where they broke free and won by 11, and that meant everybody covered, even those who didn't get it until later in the day when it moved a little bit, that number. But let's head to under the radar. I love this, except for the fact I lost St. Mary's to Utah State when we talked under the radar and best bets several weeks ago, that Raphael nicely brought up a little bit ago. But I like to go under the radar to some of these so-called smaller conferences. You can find a lot of value there. And this Saturday, going back to the Mountain West, Raphael talked about how much he likes the Aggies. Well, we got Boise State and New Mexico doing battle in Albuquerque in this one. Both teams play tonight, Tuesday night. Both will likely win, and both could very well be sitting in that room come that Sunday in March, waiting to see if they're going to be chosen for the field of 68. And this means a lot to both of these teams, obviously, and moving forward. Boise State at New Mexico. Griffin, Boise State, I think they need to win a little bit more than New Mexico. They dropped 2 of 3. Boston College, that loss by Boise and back in early November, earlier in the season, that was a bad loss. They're outside the top 200, BC. They want to slow things down, Boise, and they're not bad on offense as long as they don't fall in love with the 3. And then the Lobos, they want to get jumping down the floor, but they're a little shaky with accuracy. Your thoughts on this one?
Scott, this game is a total mismatch in my eyes. New Mexico is all speed. They fly down the hardwood. This is one of the fastest teams in the nation, and they execute offensively across all cylinders. Donovan Dent, this is the guy. He averages 7 assists a game and nearly 20 points. And then they got Joseph, who's absolutely dominant in the paint. He's the reason this team is so potent with the pick and roll. Boise State, on the other hand, they're very slow. They're a team who tries to control the tempo of the game with a very slow pace. They do not do good on rebounds whatsoever as well. So when they're trailing, they are in a big trouble due to their pace of play. So now they have to head into Albuquerque to deal with the team that does literally everything good that they do bad. This could be a huge mismatch for Boise State. They're sluggish on the road. They're coming off a loss, and they're really not hitting the three-point ball right now if their life depended on it. New Mexico, they're not strong, 9-1 at home, and they've won 7 games in a row right now, Scott. Offensively and defensively, this team is erupting. If this game's anything within 5.5 points or less, I'm on New Mexico in this one, Scott.
Raphael?
Yeah, I'm looking at New Mexico in this one. Yeah, Boise's playing Wyoming tonight. A little bit shocked that this total comes down because don't forget, Boise State put up almost 90 points against UNLV. They play really well at home. They have 7 out of their last 8 at home, but Griffin said they're horrendous on the road. They can't hit the 3 to save their life on the road. But they're not a deep team. I don't know why they shorten their bench when they're on the road. Normally, coaches will put their bench on the other side. They shorten their bench on the road. I don't understand what Boise does that. I think it hurts them when they're on the road, but I'm all on New Mexico. This is a short number. And I'm also looking at the total because New Mexico, they're flying around. They're jacking up threes all over the place. And if you're Boise, you're going to need to keep that tempo if you want to try to hang around at the pit, because that's not a good place to try to steal a road game at the pit. So I'm looking at New Mexico, but I'm also looking at the total.
If anybody ever gets a chance, not just us, I'm talking about people watching the show, to attend a game in the pit, you got to do it. I did it like 25 years ago. And one of the most, had to be one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had at the pit, where it sits down under the level of the street outside. And it's just a great time. They put on a great show. It's that time when I always think about Pink Floyd. It's the money shot, right? It's our best bet. We need to get that music going.
That's what I'm allowed
to. So let's get to it, Griffin. Let's talk a little money. What you got for us this week?
Dude, I love it, man. I love the money shot. And I wanted to give a perfect example of, because we were going to talk about, obviously, how we like to handicap conference play matchups. So I have a perfect example right here of how I like to cap conference matchups. So going into this game tips off tomorrow, Wednesday, January 15th. We've got Cincinnati at Colorado. Cincinnati's currently 10-5 on the road, while Colorado is 9-6 on the year. Or I'm sorry, on the season. Cincy 10-5 on the season. Colorado is a smashing 8-2 at home, and they have now lost 4 games in a row. This is a perfect spot play for me. Colorado, they just lost at home to West Virginia on Sunday. That's a strength of schedule impact, so that's something to always keep in mind. That's critical. Now, this will be their 2nd game in a row at home, so the comfort factor finally settles in. Cincy, they are not playing good basketball on the road whatsoever. They're 2-3 on the road this year, and they're on a 4-game losing streak. Now they have to head to Colorado for one more game before returning back home to play ASU. Cincinnati is currently 0-4. I'm going to get statistical here. They're 0-4 against the spread after a loss this season. They're currently on a 4-game losing streak. They're 0-2 against the spread as an underdog. I would insinuate that they're going to be an underdog in this matchup. And they're 0-4 against the spread when playing in conference matchups. Colorado, they're home for one more game before they have to head back out on the road. So they're going to want to solidify a nice win here and throttle through before heading back to play Oklahoma State on Saturday. So in this matchup, give me my money shot play, Scott, at Colorado, and I will be laying the point as I am anticipating them to be the favorite in this matchup.
Good stuff, Body. What you got, Body? Good stuff, Buddy. I can say it. Good stuff, Body.
I'll take it, baby, Body, all day.
How about you, Raphael?
I hope people from the home state of Nevada is not watching this, because if they are, they might want to mute up their phones and all that. But I'm saying Utah State, my Aggies, that I got that $250,000 to one ticket to win it all. They're going to come to UNLV and steal this game. It's 4.5 now. I think this number will come down. I came up a little bit too high. I was hoping to get 3.5 in this one. But let's face it, Utah State has owned UNLV as of, especially in their backyard. Don't forget, 2 years ago, they beat them by double digits and scored a 90 mark against UNLV. Yeah, UNLV has a great record, but they really haven't played anybody. Utah State's defense is for real. I keep on going back. Scott, mute your mic or cover your ears. I just keep on mentioning about how they went to the Gales' backyard and stole a victory. If you've never been to St. Mary's, the gym is like my living room. That's how small it is. They always have a great home field, and they took that crowd out early. And if they can do that, if there is a crowd at UNLV, there's probably not going to be a crowd there, even though the Golden Knights are not playing. But they don't get a crowd at UNLV. Where are you, fans? I think Utah State continues to own them. I like Utah State. They're going to be a tough out in the Mountain West tournament and in a big dance.
Changing Moraga to Esparza. I love it. But it's funny. I'll real quick, and then I'll get to my best bet. Back in the day, I love to do this stuff because some people actually like to hear it. Some people probably tune me out. But when Utah State and UNLV were really playing at their best, I'm trying to think of the head coach for Utah State back then, Tark, of course, for UNLV. It was a big rivalry. And I got to tell you, it's kind of funny. I was working for National Sports Services at the time. So we've got like 30 TVs in the main office of the studio, keeping eyes on every game. And Utah State and UNLV got into a huge fight. I'm talking fist flying. That was here at the Thomas and Mack at UNLV. Moses Scurry, who still lives in Vegas, by the way, works in some of the casinos over the years. Moses Scurry was a guy you don't want to mess with. And he was involved in I think he threw a punch at the coach for Utah State, if memory serves me correctly. And then down the road at Utah State, the students of Utah State got their revenge against Tark. They're in the middle of the game. Tark's sitting there. All of a sudden, ink starts flying up out from under the bench. And it goes all over Tark and a couple of the players. They have to stop everything. They send the players to the locker room. There was a vent underneath the UNLV bench. And some engineering students at Utah State developed this ink bomb to go off during the game. It sprayed up out of the vent and it went everywhere, all over Tark, blue ink. It was incredible times back then. I do miss those times and those days back when UNLV and Utah State were a rivalry. But you're right, man, Raphael. Under Kruger, this program is just getting worse by the minute. And they're having a hard time even drawing 5,000 or 6,000 people in the 18,000 seat TNN. I'm going to go to the Big Ten, Nebraska. They're going to be a decent-sized favorite on Thursday. They're hosting Rutgers. How about 20 straight home wins for the Huskers at Pinnacle Bank Arena? They're off back-to-back road losses. They lost that game to the Iowa Hawkeyes. That went to overtime. I think Iowa beat them like 97-90. They looked gassed 2 days later against Purdue, and they got their butts kicked. But they're back in the friendly confines. They're 8-0 there this season. Again, they've won 20 in a row. The 8 wins have come by about 20 points per game. They're 6-0 against the spread this season, win favored by less than 20. And you got Rutgers playing just its 4th true road game. They're 0-3 thus far on the road, and one of those losses came against Kennesaw State. So I think Nebraska bounces back off the back-to-back road losses, holds form at home, and gets the win here in double digits, 15, 16 points. They're going to be laying a decent amount of points as it is. All right, guys, as everybody knows, that $60 free account is your best way to give DocSports.com a trial run. You click on the link below the video, get yourself set up for that, and then you can use those free $60 on any of our daily packages over at DocSports.com. Football comes out this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time for all of us. For Griffin, for Raphael, for our producer, Michelle, for DocSports.com, we're in the paint. Let's put them in the win column, everybody. See you next week.